Getting that last bit of energy right before you hit the field or the pool or the court is essential. It really kind of tops off that energy store for athletes, but it does so much more than that.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Carbs podcast. My name is Jenna Fisher and I'm here with my co-host Reilly Beatty. Today we have Stephanie Militano on the podcast and we're so excited to chat with her about all things pre-workout and fueling for student athletes. Before we get into the podcast though, Reilly, what's your high and low?
So my high, do you know the Tillamook ice cream brand?
Yes.
So delicious. My whole thing is if you're going to eat ice cream because you enjoy it, you better eat some good ice cream, not some Halo Top nonsense. You eat some good quality ice cream. Same thing, like you want to eat a donut? Don't go to the gas station. Like go get a donut. Like enjoy it. My high is that Tillamook now is making a dark chocolate cookies and cream. I need like a bit. Like I need something like a texture in my ice cream. But the problem is I like chocolate ice cream and nobody ever has like bits in the chocolate ice cream except for like maybe like a brownie situation, but it's like a fake brownie. So like I'm just so excited because I love, again, the bit in the ice cream, but it's always like vanilla cookies and cream or like mint chocolate chip. And I'm like, I need a chocolate ice cream with like a filling in the chocolate. Tillamook is running a special right now. They have this dark chocolate cookies and cream. It's delicious.
I'm going to have to try and find that. On a Tillamook topic though, have you seen that they make like frozen pre-made pizzas?
What?
Yeah, I don't know if it's real or not, but I saw that and I have not been able to find it in a grocery store. But like that's a frozen pizza I would try. Like nothing against frozen pizzas, but I am picky on my frozen pizza. And like I would try that.
Yes, because the frozen pizza game though has really gone up because Rouse, that brand also has a frozen pizza.
That's right. Yes.
That I had, and it was actually good because I'm not a big frozen pizza person, but like a Rouse frozen pizza and now a Tillamook frozen pizza, I might have to become a frozen pizza person.
What's your low?
Okay, so my low, I think you and I talk about this all the time, but I don't realize how old I am. Because I am like, I watch the Olympic trials and I'm like, wow, he's like 16. Wow, she's like 20. And I'm like, Reilly, you are 12 years older than somebody who's 20 years old. And I keep forgetting, like sometimes I'm like, wow, I had like a teen pregnancy, but I'm 32.
Okay, I'm not kidding you. My low is going to be around like the same topic about being too old.
It's crazy because like you see somebody that is like 16 competing or somebody that's like in college competing. I'm like, I am 10 years older than these people and I don't feel like it. I'm being humbled by these Olympic trials.
I think we all are, and I'm way too invested.
You are really invested, and that might be one of my highs.
I love the Olympics. I love it.
I just have such a appreciation for the Olympics because it was like this special event in our household growing up. What are your high and what is your low?
Okay, my high, I'm probably a little bit late to this train, but have you heard of Fruit Riot?
Yes, but I'm having mom brain right now, so remind me.
It's the frozen fruit that has the sour candy coating on it.
Yes, I have not tried it, but I have heard of it.
I found it in a grocery store, but for the longest time, it was just the placard that said that that's where it was in the grocery store, but it was constantly sold out because from my understanding, it was a viral product on TikTok, Instagram. I went into the grocery store. They finally had it. I bought 3 bags without knowing if I liked it or not because I just figured that I would because I love frozen fruit and I love sour candy. So I was like, this can't be bad. And it's delicious. I think it's so good. That's my review of Fruit Riot is that I really like it.
I'm going to have to try it. So I guess the internet was not lying.
No. And like, I love frozen fruit to begin with. I think it's good. You could probably make it on your own, to be thoroughly honest, but sometimes you just have to pay for things and you don't have time to make them on your own. Just like you feel old when you are potentially watching a sporting event and thinking that you are the same age, I went shopping this weekend in the store, went into the mall.
You brave soul.
I know. Surprisingly though, like a lot of people in Arizona go to the mall during the summertime, and I think that's just because like to get out of the heat is my guess. But anyway, I had a few returns to make and I figured why not while I'm here, look for a couple things that I need. That's not usually what I do. I'm not really like the kind of person, like if I'm going into a store to buy something, like I know what I need, I'm going to buy it, and then I leave. Like I'm not a browsing shopper type of person. I went into Abercrombie and Fitch and I tell you, I was extremely humbled with how I felt walking around there, and I was like, I can't do this. It's like I see so many Instagram influencers that I think are my age. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but they're like wearing Abercrombie jeans, like they look so cute. I'm like, I can do this. Like I can do this. And I walk in and the girls like in high school are also there. And I'm like, I can't be seen here. I need to leave.
I'm not gonna lie though, Abercrombie and Fitch has really revitalized itself. I have some pieces because I shopped online. You are such a brave woman. I don't think I could be able to walk into the store. I feel like they definitely have had like a revamp.
100%, because I walked out of there with something that I purchased.
I'm just laughing at you like stressed at the mall right now. I'm laughing with you. I'm not laughing at you.
No, because you know that it's stress when I'm in a crowded environment like that.
See, this is like the phobia, which is my high from another episode where you're being invited to the mall.
Exactly. Yeah. I wanted to go to make my returns to Nordstrom. What I should have done was walk into Nordstrom, make my returns, and leave.
But it sounds like you got good stuff at Abercrombie though.
Yes, I did. It's not a sleeper anymore, but at the same time, you just can't go in there. Physically, do not go into the store. On today's episode, we have Stephanie. Stephanie is a registered dietitian who specializes in sports, specifically with high school athletes, helping them fuel for performance and helping them fuel for success. We're so excited to get into the topic today of pre-practice fueling. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for today.
We're so excited to chat with you a little bit about like pre-practice fueling and the importance of that. But before we get into some of those questions, can you share a little bit about your background and your journey to becoming a dietitian?
Yeah. So I am a registered sports dietitian. I started my practice about 6 years ago. At the time, I was a full-time dietitian in a campus setting. So I was a university dietitian for about 8 to 10 years, bopping between two universities, one in New York and then moving down here to Virginia. And I started my practice because I realized whenever I was working on campus, I gravitated towards athletics. I was always there as much as I could be, really supporting the athletes. So I created my practice as a way to support not only collegiate athletes, but really high school athletes. I saw a big gap there when it came to helping them fuel their bodies and nourish and finding time. I feel like their schedules are almost more difficult than the collegiate athlete because they have rules around when they can eat in school and how much they can eat, if they can even carry a water bottle. So my mission was really to help high school athletes as much as I could. And that's where high school athlete nutrition kind of came from. And a bit of the backstory was I was that high school athlete who was underfueled, training a ton, playing soccer hours and hours and hours on end every day. And I just needed a way to kind of bridge that gap when I was young. And so now kind of looking back, I did have the female athlete triad back then diagnosed, now REDS. So really finding that balance. And back when I was a teen, I ended up meeting with a dietitian for just one session. And I remember my dad and I leaving that session and being like, that was the most unhelpful hour I've ever spent with someone. And we kind of dove into the research ourselves and kind of figured it out. And that's when I realized like, wow, I love the world of nutrition, and kind of took me down this journey of working at university settings and then creating my own practice, kind of full circle, supporting high school athletes. So it's really fun. Most of my practice is virtual and most athletes are underfueling to some degree, but a lot of disordered eating and eating disorders in my practice as well.
We are so excited that you're here. I think that you are such a valuable resource for high school athletes. I remember when I was teaching a course like last fall and we were diving into the dietary guidelines, the population that is farthest from meeting the dietary guidelines, minimal compliance with the dietary guidelines, is this high school population. So the services that you're doing are so needed.
Thank you.
But today we're going to be really focused on pre-practice fueling. So before we dive into some recommendations, we always love talking about the why. So why is pre-practice fueling important? And why do athletes need to prioritize that, especially at the high school level?
Yeah, so getting that last bit of energy right before you hit the field or the pool or the court is essential. It really kind of tops off that energy store for athletes, but it does so much more than that. It allows you to be more focused and to really concentrate at practice. It reduces your injury risk if you are able to make better decisions on the field or during practice, but also if every move, if every play, if everything you're doing during practice, you have more energy, you have more intention, you have more focus, that directly translates to game day. So you are more competitive on game day. And that's really what I stress to athletes is that pre-training snack isn't just the granola bar or not just an applesauce or graham crackers or, pretzels or whatever it may be. It's really you becoming more competitive and you taking a step ahead of your competition and really setting yourself apart. And as a team, if you're all feeling well, that could be the difference between a tie and a win. So really having that overall impact is important, but especially for high school athletes, if they're skipping snacks or even skipping, say, lunch or not completing their lunch, they're increasing their risk for low energy availability, which increases their risk for changes in their injury risk or their immune system, or, for female athletes looking at in menstrual cycles. We really want to hone in on how can we close that fueling gap. And it starts with being consistent with snacks. And that's why I always recommend a pre-training snack. And if for longer practices, sneak one in the middle too.
For a lot of high school athletes, that window of opportunity between the end of class and the start of practice is really short. So what types of things are you recommending to help help them get in something that helps with that competitive edge, helps with that training?
Yeah, great question. That's something I hear a lot too, is, oh, I can't eat before practice. And I think a lot of athletes assume, as sports dietitians, we're recommending like turkey sandwiches or huge rice bowls right before practice. And really, in such a short period of time right before practice, we want to hone in on simple carbohydrates. So a simple carb, it doesn't have a lot of fiber, it doesn't have a lot of fat, and it doesn't have a lot of protein, in that which those things slow down digestion. We want quick digestion. So simple carbs. I love things like pretzels, especially training in the heat, because they give you some of the sodium and salt that you need to help balance hydration. Or you can do things like applesauce, fruit snacks, dried fruit. The key is really finding what works best for you. To try a few different snacks, maybe try pretzels for 2 or 3 days. And if that works, fantastic. If it doesn't, it's okay. You can move on to goldfish or applesauce. Just find something that really works best for you, but it doesn't matter what you choose, you have to choose something, is typically my recommendation for high school athletes.
What would you say to those parents and those athletes who are listening, who are focused on obviously getting in all of their nutrients, but there's a big health halo, especially around like protein and vegetables. Avoiding those before practice might be a little bit of a shock to some of those individuals listening.
Yeah, it definitely is that I'm saying, hey, we want to taper those things off a few hours before, because you might be nauseous or might be uncomfortable or, just not feel your best during practice if you have a full stomach. So I'd say this is not, your sports dietitian telling you not to eat fruits and vegetables or not to eat protein, but we just want to shift them earlier in the day. So lunch would be a prime example for athletes of when we can really prioritize proteins and carbs and color or fruits and vegetables, because hopefully you have plenty of time to digest before practice. The unfortunate piece that I see with many high school athletes is they don't really have a lunch, they have a brunch. So they get to school and then they have a 10:30 or even like a 10 o'clock lunchtime. And that's the last big meal they have before practice at 2 or 3 o'clock. So it's a pretty big gap. So that's where those snacks become even more essential. But you really do have a lot of time to digest the protein and color during that meal, that lunch beforehand, and then also dinner right after. So we're really just saying that snack should be a little lower in protein and a little bit lower in fruits and veg.
And just to be clear, that snack that you're talking about that should be more carbohydrate based, less protein, less color, is the one right before practice versus one that's maybe like midday if we can sneak it in.
Yes, exactly right. Yep, in that short window before practice. And then other snacks during the day, we want to encourage you to add protein. We want you to have color. Really just right before practice, we want to make sure that your gut is able to digest that fuel, shuttle it to your muscles so that you're hitting the court or the pool or the field as energized as possible.
We're going to play a game. We're going to play Nutrition Smash or Pass Backpack Snacks for Athletes Edition.
Awesome.
So I'm going to give some common backpack snacks that we've come across, and you're going to let us know, do you smash or pass? Reilly, you can chime in on this too. Okay, first backpack snack is Gushers.
It depends on if it's a pre-training snack, I'm all for it. I think it's a quick carb, but if it's like your main snack, we definitely want to add something with it. So if you could do Gushers and some trail mix, I'm all for the smash.
It's so interesting to hear you say it depends on the time. Reilly and I joke about all the time that this podcast could be named It Depends, because it really does depend on the time of day that we might be considering this snack for.
Definitely. I'm all for candies and snacks like that. I think they're awesome before practice or strategically paired with some protein, but it depends. I feel like as a dietitian, we all say like, well, it depends. We don't know.
What about a Fiber One bar right before practice?
Ooh, I'm going to pass on the Fiber One bar right before practice because it is just too much fiber. It slows down digestion, isn't really going to fuel you as well.
Reilly?
I agree with Stephanie. Right before practice, not wanting to have fiber. I think this goes back to, and I feel like we're going to say this about every single backpack snack, is it depends, because a lot of, again, high school athletes are not getting enough fiber. So maybe a snack time earlier in the day, a Fiber One bar could be appropriate. It goes back to it depends.
This next one I feel like is very popular, and it might not depend, but that's Celsius.
Oh, I'm going to pass. That is a hard pass. My general thought on caffeine is you need a little bit of caffeine from like coffee in the morning to wake up. I think that's perfectly fine. But as a high school athlete, if you're relying on coffee or caffeine or energy drinks to get you through the day, you're probably not fueling well and you're probably not sleeping well. So we'll work on those two things first. I'm going to pass on the Celsius.
Reilly, you want to chime in?
I'm also going to pass. It is a fun fact that actually energy drinks, they're not supposed to market it to individuals under 18. I feel like that's a little different with Celsius. I feel like I see a lot of high school athletes drinking Celsius.
Most definitely. Yeah.
My favorite things that you've ever said about like an energy drink like that, Reilly, is that it's providing a stimulant, not actual energy. So the energy that we get from the carbohydrate-based snacks like Stephanie is talking about, very different from that maybe stimulated energy that we might feel from caffeine in something like a Celsius. Gonna stick with the drink topic. The next one is Gatorade.
Yeah, I think Gatorade before practice can be really, really helpful, especially if we're heading into hotter weather. You know, adding some electrolytes, adding some carbohydrates in before practice can be great. So I'm going to smash that.
I'm also going to smash that. You also mentioned, Jenna, that sometimes we don't have a lot of time between, you know, afternoon class finishing and practice, and liquid energy, liquid carbohydrates is just another great way to get in some fuel before practice.
What about something like a Core Power?
Yeah. So Core Power, I wouldn't recommend right before training just because it does have a lot of protein in it, which won't really feel great when you're heading into practice. But as a post-workout recovery, it's fantastic because it does have that essential protein that you need to really start that recovery process. And often I recommend like a chocolate milk on the way home in the car because it helps you really start that process of recovering your glycogen with the carbohydrates, adding some protein in with the bonus of calcium and vitamin D. Highly recommend Core Power post-practice, but before, probably wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to go for a liquid calorie, even going for like a drinkable smoothie maybe, or Gatorade is a really great choice.
Stephanie, you already kind of mentioned this one, but I'm still going to ask anyway, and that's goldfish.
Oh yeah, goldfish fall in the same category as pretzels. I think they're great, quick carbohydrate, but they also have the salt on there, which is really, really helpful for athletes who are training in hot weather or have really long practices, or if you're just a super sweater, getting some of the extra salt in there can be really helpful as you're kind of losing sodium in your sweat. Getting some in there early can be nice. So I'm going to smash on the goldfish.
I'm also going to smash on the goldfish, and extra credit, you could pair them with the Core Power that Stephanie talked about after training to help with recovery, so you get your protein and your carbs.
Love it. The next one, I'm sure you probably hear this a lot, but is nothing as a snack between the end of class and the start of practice.
Yeah, the good old living on oxygen. I do not recommend going with nothing right before practice. We want to make sure that you're definitely adding something. Again, this is your opportunity to make sure practice counts. Practice is when you're working on your technique, you're working on your fitness, your strength, your speed, your endurance. And so if you can put it all out on the field during practice, why wouldn't you? Because it does make you a more competitive athlete on game day or meet day or race day. So I highly recommend having something. So I'm going to pass on having nothing.
I'm also going to pass on having nothing.
I feel like these are super popular, but what about chewy bars?
Chewy bars. So this depends. I think they are higher fiber, but some athletes can tolerate them right before practice. So this would be something I would recommend trying before practice, before you kind of introduce it on game day. Some athletes can do really, really well with a chewy bar, maybe 30 minutes out from practice, while others it's too much fiber. So it's going to be dependent on the athlete and how much they can tolerate. But if you're going to start with a chewy bar, I think just make sure you're kind of starting maybe 45 minutes before practice. Give yourself plenty of time to digest, maybe an hour before, and then you can taper it closer to practice if you want to see if you can get into that 15-minute window.
I love that idea of kind of tapering and practicing with your pre-practice snack because it is so dependent. Everybody's digestive system can handle different levels and different things before we go into game practice and all of that. So practicing is super important.
All right, so Stephanie, we have 4 questions that we ask all of our guests. And because it is the Eat More Carbs podcast, we have to ask you what your favorite carbohydrate is.
Oh my gosh, that's an easy one. Bagels. I'm from New York, not New York City, but upstate. And so a bagel is my hands down favorite carb. Anytime we go home, we get several dozen and bring them back and freeze them so we can have them for a while.
Do you do like a bagel and cream cheese? Do you do a bagel sandwich? Like what's the bagel situation?
Both bagel and cream cheese or like a turkey American cheese with lettuce and tomato and mayo sandwich. So it's kind of one of these. I love a bacon, egg, and cheese also, but I would say the turkey and the just lots of cream cheese would be my go-to.
What's your favorite pre-workout fuel? Are you using bagels or do you have something else that you like to eat before you train?
Yeah, I'm a fan of applesauce. I love applesauce, but I'm very particular. I need a room temp applesauce. I don't want a cold applesauce. I want a room temp pouch of applesauce.
I was going to ask, can you do a pouch? Can you do a cup or does it have to be a pouch?
I'm not picky on the cup or a pouch. It's just kind of whatever I have. Sometimes I'll do the jar and just put it in a little container, but room temp is definitely, I've tried cold and I don't like it. So room temp is where it is.
That's so funny. I'm like cold only. I'm like, it has to be refrigerated. Otherwise I don't want it.
Same. What's your favorite post-workout fuel?
Oh, I lately have been loving yogurt I stumbled upon dried blueberries on accident. I ran out of frozen berries. And so I was like, in my cabinet, I just had dried ones. So I threw those in with granola. It's my new favorite post-workout snack. So using dried fruit instead of frozen.
All right. And then this seems to be the hardest question on the podcast, but we're big shoe people here. So what's your favorite pair of kicks?
I love my Brooks running shoes. Those are my favorite, hands down. I don't buy anything else in terms of shoes and sneakers. Like Brooks are my go-to when I choose that.
Stephanie, thank you so much for being on this episode. I know that a lot of high school and athletes in general are just going to find this so helpful. If folks want to follow along with you, have questions, or just want to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so you can always send me a message on Instagram. My handle is highschool.athlete.nutrition, or you can visit my website, smnutritionrd.com. You can always send me a message through there as well. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
We're going to leave all of Stephanie's information in the show notes below, so that way you can easily find her on social media and find her website. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eat More Carbs podcast. Please make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And as always, remember to eat more carbs.